Welcome to Techlandia, a podcast about and for the technology industry, a place to learn, connect, and engage with leaders and thinkers involved in the technology industry. You can check us out at techoregon.org, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thank you for listening
All
and
right.
enjoy the
Well,
show.
welcome to our latest episode of Techlandia, TAO's podcast series. My name is Skip Newberry, President and CEO of TAO. And we have with us Will Deere, who's the CEO of Fundpilot. And Will, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us. We're really pleased to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Skip. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate the invitation.
Awesome. Well, Will, I was wondering if we could start off by maybe having you explain a little bit about the sort of origin story of Fundpilot. How'd you guys come to be, and sort of what's the main focus of the company? What are you trying to solve?
Yeah, sure. So, Fundpilot currently is a product that is focused on solving the root level problems that exist between the relationship of a real estate entrepreneur, real estate investment manager, and the investors that manager works with in order to do and construct their real estate deals. And so, in a nutshell, it's an investor management platform. And what we're trying to do is make that relationship as smooth and as productive as it possibly can be. The product itself has evolved over time. It's been incubated within a company that I'm currently the CEO of called Verivest. Verivest itself is a real estate services company. So not only does it provide this software platform, it also provides back-end bookkeeping services as well as consulting services to real estate investment managers. It itself has spun out from a parent company about 10 years ago called Fairway America, who is a investment manager. And so the way that this whole thing has evolved is that once upon a time, Fairway America, as an investment manager, was having all of these challenges itself as a manager, developed some of the services and the products and the platforms to solve its own needs, and then realized that many, many other managers had all the same problems and started to turn that into a business unto itself.
Excellent. So it's really interesting. We don't come across a ton of startups necessarily that are kind of born from an existing business, but it does happen. And I've been doing this long enough where we do see it from time to time. Obviously, it's always an advantage to be able to have firsthand experience, kind of understanding and seeing a problem in an existing industry firsthand. And then once you've lived with that day in and day out, you kind of understand the market well when it does come time to launch a company. And always great to be spun out of an existing business because at least you're starting with some resources ostensibly. And I'm wondering if you could maybe talk to our audience a little bit about and share, what were there any hurdles or challenges in kind of navigating that process in terms of creating a new company out of one that already exists, where, sometimes I think people will say, well, a startup, you need to move fast and potentially fail fast. And you have a different kind of culture at the early stages compared to all the systems and processes in place to operate a more established company. How have you all navigated that?
Yeah, we are still in the process of navigating that, I would say, Skip. So Fundpilot itself has not yet spun out. It's something that we are still actively working on and taking a look at. Yes, it's been a very interesting development as the product evolved within the current company, Verivest. And there was, a lot of learnings that occurred along the way where we tried to solve a number of different problems, but really kept coming back to this concept of the the relationship between the investment manager and the investors, and the fact that the capital that the investors provide to the managers is really the lifeblood of that investment manager's business. And without that capital and without that flow of capital and access to capital, the real estate investment manager just simply can't do business. So in terms of the culture, I think that we have always had a startup-like culture when it came to the tech platform. It sort of operated and to this day kind of operates as a bit of a skunk works within the company, very tight-knit group, and they have always tried to put the customer at the forefront of their development process.
Excellent. And in terms of the like prop tech community locally, we've had some companies over the years kind of get some traction here and be kind of early on in the market. One that most folks listening might be familiar with is CrowdStreet, and which did sort of crowdsourcing of accredited investors for purposes of helping to put together different real estate investment opportunities. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about what you're seeing in the broader real estate investment market. It's gone through quite a tumultuous, last handful of years, and I'm wondering where you see both opportunities and challenges.
Yeah, that's a great question. With the advent of the Jobs Act, however many years ago that was now, I guess that's back in 2013, I think, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, there was just a lot of excitement about the democratization of real estate and the ability for, regular Joes to get into some of these more sophisticated real estate investment structures that up to that point had always been out of their reach and in fact sometimes prohibited to them, specifically in terms of the ability for the real estate manager to advertise that they even had a deal. There used to be restrictions that you couldn't tell people that you had a real estate investment opportunity unless you already knew that person and you already had a relationship with them. So it was like kind of a catch-22. And the Jobs Act that was passed enabled the investment managers to go out and actually market their private real estate deals. CrowdStreet, as an example, was a service provider that jumped into that space, as did we, to try to enable the real estate managers to cast those nets and connect with those additional capital sources. And I think in the beginning, like I said, there was a lot of excitement about it. I think investors were really interested in it. I think real estate is a very long-standing asset class here in America, and it's part of the American dream to own your own home, and so there's a tangibility to real estate that doesn't exist with a lot of other intangible investment assets out there. People can see it and they can touch it and they feel more connected and familiar with it because it's all around them all the time. And I think that in the teens, leading up to kind of the COVID era, there was a huge boom in these syndications and bringing tons more Americans into the world of real estate investing. And I think that ultimately that was a really, really good thing. However, I think, it was kind of people taking their first steps into a brand new world that they didn't always fully understand the contours and the landscape there. And there's quite a lot of complexity there, and there are risks there that I think sometimes people didn't fully recognize. And the biggest one that we've all experienced most recently is what happens when inflation gets away from us, and then the Federal Reserve is under a mandate to get that back under control. And the way they do that is by raising interest rates. And in the commercial real estate world, most loans, not all, but a large portion of them are on floating rate terms, kind of similar to, if you remember, back in 2006, 2007 in the housing market, there were a lot of adjustable rate mortgages back then, and you remember what happened with those as those reset. Well, the same thing is happening in commercial real estate today. And it is creating a lot of challenges for the investment managers, and then I think it's creating like some shocking learning experiences for investors who maybe didn't have the background and weren't anticipating what that could lead to.
So with most startups, oftentimes, or any tech company, right? It's from a sales standpoint, you're typically effective if you can generate revenue for a customer, help them save expenses, or reduce risk. And it sounds to me like, based on your total offering, you may be hitting a couple or a few of those things. And I'm wondering, could you kind of talk a little bit about, the sort of value offering that you provide to folks who are going to be using your platform?
Yes. So, one of the challenges that real estate managers face is this chicken or the egg sort of problem where they need access to capital in order to acquire real estate opportunities, but they kind of need the real estate opportunities in order to attract the capital. And so they can sometimes get caught in this, in this chicken or the egg situation. And so we know that from our own longstanding experience in the space. And so the the whole platform is being designed in a way that tries to work with that dynamic, allowing the real estate manager to basically set up a home for themselves, where they can start to network and cast that net and create those connections with the investors and build that following, and then do that at low or even no cost until such point in time when they actually do have a live deal that they in the way that commercial real estate works is, you put a piece of property under contract, there's usually a finite due diligence period of time wherein you then have to make a commitment of significant amounts of dollars, in order to maintain that contract and then ultimately close it. And so once that sort of firing gun goes off, there's a massive amount of activity that needs to get done in a very, very short period of time. One of those things that is critical is coming up with the capital necessary to complete the acquisition. So, that's where we're trying to add value, is basically de-risking that whole part of the acquisition opportunity process. And then on the backside, 80% of a real estate investor's investment capital comes from existing investors. 80% of their money comes from people who have given them money in the past. And so the maintenance and the deepening of those capital relationships that they have developed is extremely important. And so that's the other half of what our platform aims to do, which is to facilitate the deepening of those relationships so that the real estate manager can continue to rely on those capital sources, which, like I said, are really the lifeblood of their companies.
That was really helpful. That was a really sort of great sort of tour, if you will, through the value offering. Appreciate it. As you think about the market, are there other tools or solutions that have tried to tackle different parts of this set of challenges, and where do you think maybe those have fallen short?
Yes, there are. There are a number of platforms out there, and they do various things. There are platforms that act as marketplaces for transactions, and they assist with the buyer and seller of the property in question, but they don't really address the relationship between the buyer and their sources of capital to close that transaction. There are other platforms out there that uh, focus on managing the asset itself post closing. And then there are a number of other platforms out there that do focus on investor relations, um, but maybe leave out some of the some of these other areas that I just mentioned. So there's been a lot of platforms out there that have really tried to focus on one single sort of stage in the process, and that makes sense as your um, sort of beachhead to get into the space, right, and to start adding value right away. But what that has created is a situation in the commercial real estate industry where a real estate investment manager has to wind up juggling like half a dozen different platforms in order to get their entire workflow process from A to Z. And so we're trying to create a platform that really becomes the single operating system for real estate investment managers to get all the way through their entire value proposition that they are trying to provide to their investors.
Yeah, there's definitely some benefits to not necessarily being the first in a market, but rather to kind of see where things are going and where there are gaps, and then figuring out how to do better what those who have come before have tried to do, but bringing it all together into a complete package. That's very smart approach.
Yeah, yeah,
It-
exactly. We try to take, I would say, and this, I don't want this to come off as like too, um, I don't know, but we really try to take kind of the Apple approach to it, right? There are a lot of solutions out there, but many times they were either sort of ahead of their time, or the design and the UX just wasn't really there. You know, as I'm sure your listeners probably know, the real estate industry is notoriously um, resistant to technological innovation, right? They're almost always the last industry to adopt, any kind of new technology. And so, the client base is it's kind of an unusual client base for a tech company because your users typically aren't early adopters in most cases. I mean, you have to remember that the vast majority of real estate wealth in this country is owned and controlled by people that are 50, 60, 70 years old and older. And so the solutions that you have to provide to these actors in the space really have to meet them where they're at and on their level. And I think in a lot of cases, that's not always something that the companies have successfully done in the past.
Well, I feel like you all are really hitting the market at an interesting time, and so you've got customers, despite what you've just mentioned in terms of like the risk aversion of the target audience. You guys have demonstrated some traction, and so what comes next for the company? What's kind of on the horizon?
Yeah, I think going forward, I mean, obviously, the integration of AI technologies that enable higher productivity of our clients and assist them in um, moving through those workflows as fast as they can, but also just being able to do more is something that we're probably going to be taking, taking a priority look at.
Cool. And beyond your product roadmap, what sort of stage are you at with the company? Are you guys looking to raise a round, add folks to the team at some point? What does that roadmap look like?
Yeah, we're currently, I would say, at the seed stage round. We have it's an interesting, like you said, it's an interesting situation because we have a product. It's in production. It's been in production for over 5 years. It's got um, over 13,000 active investor users on the platform, and another 50 or 60 managers who have used the platform for a number of years. So it is a very battle tested platform at this point in time, and it has existing SaaS revenue. So from that standpoint, we've come a long way, and I think at this point we are at a threshold moment where yes, it's time, I think, for us to really start to scale this platform and scale its adoption. One of the things that we are implementing as an update more recently is is going to be more uh, self-serve features and a self-serve guided setup so that people can get in and kick the tires on the platform, before they have to make a decision on it. Because I think, within the real estate space, a lot of the attraction to real estate operators out there is the fact that you can get into real estate on, what is, relatively speaking, a shoestring budget, and then, with the use of outside capital and leverage and stuff, you can really make a lot of gains and accumulate a lot of wealth from a very humble beginning.
So, in terms of a little bit about the company and its sort of future plans for growth, operationally, you all are based here in the Portland area, and assuming you're successful in hitting your milestones from a customer acquisition standpoint, and also, potential later funding rounds. Where do you envision growing the company here, or is it going to be more of a distributed model that you take?
No, I would expect that we would grow the business here, although, I think that with all of the opportunities for distributed growth, I think, we will absolutely take a look at that. We do have folks in other, places and right now. So I think that, these days, I think you can find talent, anywhere, and so I think it's just part of the duty of the leadership of the organization to go and have a look at those possibilities.
For sure. Well, as we near the end of our time, wanted to ask if there's any sort of words of wisdom or final thoughts you wanted to leave our audience with.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that one of the best guidebooks that I have come across so far as the chief product officer of the platform are Marty Kagan's books, Inspired, Empowered, and Transformed, where he talks about a product-led organization and what that looks like, and what that, you know, how you create one of those, how you sustain them, and if you maybe aren't a product-led organization yet, how you can move in that direction. I've really learned a ton from those books, and I've been applying all of the lessons that Marty outlines in his book, and I really have seen a lot of great results from them. So.
Very cool. A little recommendation for some reading for folks who are listening from Will Thier of Fundpilot. Will, thanks again for taking some time and joining us today. It's exciting what you all are building, and we're grateful you're doing it here and as part of the TAO network. And yeah, we look forward to great things from you and the team.
Thanks, Skip. Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. This was great.